Alrighty, everyone. Thank you for joining. Today, we're going to focus on some more advanced topics. We're going to start to use our scale ruler. We're going to use some curves, learn how to be from our scale drawing. We'll draw some different kinds of trees. We'll use some walls, planter boxes. We're gonna put in a barbecue, in a mow strip on our turf, and a couple other things that we'll go through here. So let's start here. Let's explore to start our landscape architecture ruler here. So we'll notice that there are 3 different sides. Mine's colored black, red, green. Yours might be similar, might be different. My green side has the, if I can get it in focus, the 1/8 scale at the top here. You can see that. And our drawing sheet, as we see in the bottom here, is 1/8 equals 1 foot. So each one of these increments on the 1/8 side is going to be 1 foot in our actual diagram. One thing to note on this is that there are a few lines to the left of the 0 that just show what an actual increment is. But when we're lining up the 0 on the grid itself, you want to start on the 0, not on the furthest left line. So you start on the 0, and that starts to the right and measures your actual feet. So when I put this on the ground, on the paper, and I start at 0, and I draw a line that goes all the way out to the 20 right here, that's 20 feet in real life. So that's how you draw to scale, is that once you're in the 1/8 world, like our grid shows, 0 to whatever we do is how many feet it is in the real life. You can calculate square footages, you can calculate linear runs, you can calculate barbecue square footages and linear runs, and that's what we're going to work on today. Take our mechanical pencil to start and have our eraser handy in case we need it. And let's begin. So we're going to do everything now to scale. We're going to start 8 feet from the left side. And just a shortcut for you here, the grids on our boxes are 8 by 8 wide. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the thick lines themselves are 8 feet apart. So we're going to start 8 feet from the left-hand side. And then we're going to continue down, put our 0 where we want to start, and work our way down 24 feet to the bottom there, which is basically just the 3rd block down. Keep your ruler, just like last time, north-south, and move your paper. And we're going to draw over 32 feet. And then we are going to come down 16 feet, over 24 feet. And I'm making it easy with the 8 blocks. And come all the way back to the top. We're going to work in the backyard. Dallas, we did backyard with you last time. Phoenix, we did a driveway. This one's going to be a backyard. Okay, so when we're done, we have a shape like this. 24 feet down, 32 feet across, 16 feet down, 24 feet across, and then return line all the way to the back. Drawing our fence lines, we're going to create our boundaries. So 5 feet from the top left corner, we're going to start with our fence line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And to draw it down 76 feet. So I'm starting at 0 on my ruler. I'm going to draw a line that's 76 feet down to the bottom. For my other fence, I'm going to go on the right-hand side, 8 feet to the right of my foundation. And I am going to go 64. So if we're counting big boxes, it's 2, 4, 6, 8. Now notice that our lines don't end at the same points. That's fine. Not all yards are square in the back, and we're just going to match our points. And then we have kind of a lot line that is on an angle here. So the left-hand side starts 5 feet off the house, comes down 72. The right-hand side starts 8 feet off the house and comes down 64. And this line is just the fence line that goes across. So it's diagonal, slicing across the backyard. Now, if we were trying to figure out this corner of the house to this corner of the fence, say there's a downspout here, and I usually just put a circle on the outside of the paper. Come a little bit closer. That's my downspout. I'm going to label it later. And we want to run the water from the house all the way underground to a pop-up in the corner. We put that in the corner there. And now I want to figure out drain line that I need to run from one to the other. Since my whole backyard is now in scale, I can just start at 0 on my ruler from that one, go to the other one, and see that it's 51 feet away. So when I'm putting stuff into JPT or into CE, depending on what market you're in, you can start really getting accurate with how much material in line that you need. So I need 2 connections here and 51 feet of drain line. So that's how I'm going to use my ruler for that kind of stuff. We're going to create a rounded patio, squared with round corners, and then we're going to do a circle. So here's some tools in my box. I kind of rigged up my box here. I just taped an open envelope into the inside as a pouch, and I have a couple tools in here. I have a protractor for angles if needed, and then I have this. I can get it out. This was actually one. I cut it in half so I could carry it around easier. This came in one sheet like this. I just cut it down the middle so I could stack them. I'll send a link to in the follow-up email, where you can find it on Amazon. It's like $2, and it has all different widths and diameters of circles here that we can use really accurately in our design, and we can use to make corners. There are tools called French curves as well that allow you to make pretty cool shapes and smooth corners and transitions. You don't need to have it, but it can help. But we're going to use this for a couple different reasons here today. All right. So setting my box aside, we are going to create a patio from the corner of the house that's going to come down 24 feet. But I'm going to stop my line 3 feet short. So it's going to come down 21. So 8 box, 8, and then 5 is 21. I'm going to stop it there. And then I'm going to come down off the house 5 feet on the other corner and stop 3 feet from the 8 lines. And the same thing across. I'm going to create a back line that stops 3 feet from the edge. And you'll see why I'm stopping 3 feet from the edge is because we're not going to have it squared off here. See how I came down here and I stopped 3 feet, and I also stopped 3 feet from that corner. I came down off the house, stopped 3 feet, and stopped 3 feet because we're going to curve off the edges. And the way that you can curve off the edges is find a curve or find a circle that matches. You'll see on this that there are actual lines on the center points of each circle. To see which one matches up so you can find a good curve that's going to complete the circle there. So I found one here and creating a good finished edge. So very easily, I just created curved edges that are linear and cut off the last 3 feet. If I'm going to price this out, and I can take my square footages very easily from this because I know this is 32 wide by 24. So 32 by 24. I would probably just call that whole shape 32 by 24 and not worry about what I cut off the edges, which is 768 square feet here, and just, keep that as overage in there. So that's how we create rounded areas here. We're going to use the circles, and I realize you guys are just kind of freehanding this now because you don't have this circle. Maybe some of you do. But I'm going to use another circle in the corner to make like kind of a freestanding fire pit area. I'm going to take my 1 3/4 inch circle, and I'm going to do a circle here. A nice looking circle for like a fire pit landing. And then I'm going to use another circle, a slightly smaller one, on the inside of that, but still centered. And you can see through this, so I know I'm centered. to create my border line for the inside. So just like last time we created an inner border, now I've got a double circle using this, so my borders are going to be straight. So as of now, I got two patio areas. I've got one with curved edges, and I've got one with a circle on the side here that's going to have my fire pit middle. All right. I want to create a walkway that is going to go from this corner of the patio over to here, but I don't want a straight shot. I want to kind of make it artistic with a little flared edge. So I'm going to start using this curve to do something like this. So the walkway is going to go like this all the way across. Now, one of the tricky parts here is keeping this walkway 4 feet apart the entire way, so it doesn't look kind of, all over the place as it's moving visually. So the way to do it is to come up to your line, and on the left-hand side where the left part of our walkway is going to be, we're just going to make sure that we're 4 feet away. So just mark it on a couple points. And kind of move with the shape that the walkway is going. And I'm just keeping a 4-foot dash mark, really, as a rough guideline. So this looks straight. It's a really cool trick you can do. I'm going to have the mouth open up in the patio here. So when this is called a flare at the end. This walkway, the mouth of it kind of opens up and the edges flare off to the side. It's called a flare. And it's a curved design technique. So all I'm doing is just kind of making a line that hits the dashes that I made. Before you know it, you've got a fairly good 4-foot wide walkway. Do a little bit of housekeeping there. So in the end, you've got a 4-foot walkway with some flares on the end to meet that. So you'll realize that when you're doing this and designing this in a grid, that it's going to be pretty hard to determine how much square feet that walkway is, because if you're not measuring it in someone's backyard, you're like, well, it's curving, and how do I get a straight line? Here's the answer. You don't need a straight line, you need a string line. So a string line, everything is on a linear axis here on the scale of 1 equals 1 foot. So if I start at the top of my walkway and have a measured point here and simply go down the middle of my walkway, like I'm measuring with a tape measure curved in real life, I found that that is my distance of my walkway. So if I take that to my 1/8 scale and I put one end on my 0 and one end here, I see that it's 28 feet is my distance, because I just used this line going straight down the middle. 28 feet long coming down here. So 28 feet by 4 feet, you're left with 112 square feet. 112 square feet, not counting these flares on the edge. So you round up a little bit, add 20 square feet to it, maybe to account for these. And you've got 132 square feet. Is probably pretty good to do that. So to recap, use a string line. You place it right down the middle of your walkway. I tied a knot in the end of mine so I know where my end point is. And I just place that right at the top. And go straight down. And let's set some context here. You're not doing this in the back of your car during a first call close. That's ridiculous to do this kind of detail. This is when you're sitting down and doing a killer design for somebody when you're presenting a $200,000 project. This is the kind of detail that you want to do. But this is not expected that you're pulling out your string line on your drawing paper in the back of a car. This is a much bigger project. So now I've taken my curved line and just straightened it out, put it on my ruler, and I've got my 28 feet. Hopefully that makes sense. If not, we've got the video. You can rewatch how to do that. So now I've got my curved line here. I want to put in the bottom corner an area that's big enough to place a grill in the barbecue area. So I'm going to come up and make it 12 feet. So I've got 8 plus 4 on the squares. And it's going to come over, let's see how many feet here. Each time I'm flipping and keeping my 0, it's going to go 20 feet, sorry, 21 feet. Down my 12. And this is just made a square. It's 12 by 21 down here. This is a separate patio that's going to exist as kind of like a floating barbecue area. All right, now we're going to connect all the dots here and make this a flowing area. So I'm going to create like this curved path here. I'm going to continue off this path and come into the corner of my patio. Start 4 feet here and kind of make a curved path that's going to enter this rectangle. So it connects here. It's going to be turf all in between. So technically you could walk in between on the turf, but visually we're connecting all these paths. And then we're going to do one too that's going to come up to this corner just to have some fun with it. And I'm freehanding this one here. I'm not using the 4 feet apart rule, but you can kind of count off 1, 2, 3, 4, make a mark, 1, 2, 3, 4, make a mark. So you're staying relatively spaced apart. So now I've created kind of like a little area where there's going to be turf here, patio down here, walkway coming up here, and that original walkway that comes to my fire pit area. And that's all my flat work I'm going to do. I'm going to put in some walls and some planters now. So on this side of the house, I'm going to assume there's like a big bay window here or something that looks over the backyard. I want to put a planter underneath it. Not a flat planter, but a raised, like a Weston stone wall planter or a Melville for those markets that have Melville. I'm going to start a foot off the house and basically go all the way from the patio to the edge of the house. 8, 8, 8. I'm going to come down 6. And I'm going to return back to the patio here. Now I've got a really big planter outline outside of this house. That's going to be my planter. I'm going to do one line inside of it to show my wall as a foot thick, kind of like we did with the foundation of the house. So if you can see here, now we've got a 1 foot thick planter wall that has 4 feet of plantable space inside, but the actual planter itself is 6 feet because the wall itself is 1 foot thick. So 1 foot, 4 feet, 1 foot. This one goes 1 foot and 1 foot on this side with all this usable space inside. And to delineate as a planter, I usually miter the corners and then just put kind of pretty wide hashes down the middle that we're going to do with our marker anyway. But now that's raised, kind of like you're drawing in the wall cap, is how you get the wall there. I'm going to continue this a little bit along the side of the house, or along the side of the patio to the left side of the house. But I'm going to leave room for my walkways. And I'm going to put one on the bottom to kind of close in this patio a little bit. So now we've got a planter wall here that's 4-sided because you need 4 sides to a planter. These are just sitting walls. They're single side, so you can sit from this side or you can sit from this side, from the patio, and this is going to be a turf area. But I left room for the walkways to come through. And then up here, I started where this walkway begins, and I go all the way up, but I left 4 feet at the top because if someone's coming from the side yard, they're going to be able to have to get in through here from somewhere. So 4 feet is generally a good entrance point up there. So once they come down this side, they'll be able to walk in. And and have an enclosed little space there. So that is our flat work and our walls sketched out there. I want to put now our barbecue down at the bottom. There's a couple things to consider when planning out a barbecue space. Is that if there's going to be seats there, they need to have room for the seat itself and for people to walk behind someone that is sitting in a seat. So you actually need a lot more room than you think on the backside of a barbecue, probably 4 or 5 feet. Because if a seat is going to be roughly 2 feet and you need 2 feet for someone to walk behind someone sitting down, when you draw in a barbecue, you really have to plan about 4 feet of space behind it. So with that in mind, I'm going to count out 4 feet here and make an L barbecue. Count out 4 feet. Comes up like this. And I'm just going to create my L. Barbecues are generally 3 feet thick if you think of it like a wall. I'm going to have it come all the way up to the walkway there. Some other theory about the barbecue I can share once that's in there. And here you can notice that I've left 4 feet behind the barbecue because we'll put seats there. And I put 4 feet behind this one because we'll put seats there too. That way someone can sit down behind it and still walk behind it. We'll put the grill somewhere here and they got a little L. You can draw in seats by drawing a flat line and then a little circle dome behind it. That's how you can show seats. Just a flat line on one side and then a curved back. So if we look at the design in general, you always give the best view to the people sitting in the seats for a barbecue. So in this case, the best view is looking back at their whole backyard, right? So the people sitting in the barbecue get to sit there and look at your backyard. You're looking at the pool, you're looking at the house, you're looking at the landscaping, whatever the focal point is, the people in the seats get to see it, not the person cooking. So if we're going to put the grill in, maybe we'll just put it right here. The person can face the guests in their grill here. People can sit around there. The last thing we're going to do is draw in a mow strip to complete our turfed areas. So from the corner of the patio, I'm going to kind of have a free flowing line here. It's going to match up to the circle, and then I'm going to have at the top of the circle a free flowing line that matches to the planter. So now we've kind of made 3 different islands of turf. That's closed in. I've got an island of turf here. I've got an island of turf here, and I drew a line down here to have an island of turf. So although the walkways are going in specific points to all the different areas, you can technically walk across the turf here to get to all the areas. So kids can play, people can sit and watch. Again, this is just kind of a random design, but we're incorporating a lot of different aspects here in kind of a cool curvilinear design for people that might like it. We're going to do a different kind of tree today. We're going to do some palm trees. So assuming we're in Phoenix or something, we're going to do, roughly bigger than 1 foot circle. Just make little circles, maybe the width, smaller ones, not big trees like we did in the past. 4 little circles here. And then we're going to draw 4 fronds that come out, kind of like little caterpillars they end up looking like. Look like that, like little spiders. So I took 1 circle and then drew 4 little squiggles coming out of it. You can do that for all your palm trees. Start in the middle, draw out. Again, you can overlap your hardscapes. These look pretty cool when they're done. These are just kind of the outlines for now. So I've got 4 palm trees that look like little 4-legged spiders for now. And we can keep it right there. So that's it for our pencil. We've got our house, our patio, our barbecue fire pit patio, our walkways leading to all the different areas, our planter and our seating walls. One thing I might do actually as I'm looking at it is take a small circle and actually put in my fire pit. Find the center here. A little too big. There you go. Now in the center, I've got my fire pit. These things are really, really handy. And you can count off the diameter 1, 2, 3, 4 feet, which is probably the average size of a round fire pit. And you know that this is a certain amount diameter, and that's the fire pit in the middle there. Okay, let's pick up we start with our thickest weight and move down to our thinnest weight. I'm going to go kind of quick here, so if you can keep up, that's great, but I want to make sure that we get this whole thing done in time. So I'm going to batch my strokes, meaning I'm going to go all in the same direction before I turn my page. I'm going to flip. I'm going to mark out where my doors are. So I've got a wide door here. I've got a wide door here. And then I'm going to finish my box, my 1 foot wide foundation wall. Flip my page, go in the same direction. And then color in everything but the openings. So rather than scratching down, see if you can just pull straight down and do one stroke. It saves you a lot of time there rather than kind of scratching down for your marks. And we have a foundation that has just our doors open. Everything else is a solid brick thick. All right, the next pen we need is our sign pen, which is the medium thickness pen. This guy here. And we're going to basically ink the entire everything in the diagram. We're going to move really quickly. And we're going to batch our strokes, meaning we're going to go from left to right. I'm going to get everything that's vertical. I'm going to flip my page and then do everything that's vertical again. It goes really quick when you think in those terms. Okay, now I'm going the other way, start left. Work over. All our guidelines that we made with our circles are there. With the bigger circles, I recommend that you use the stencil again with your marker. And with the smaller ones, you can probably just freehand them closed, like this one specifically on the corners. You can probably just freehand that over the line that you've already made. But like the fire pit circle, it might make sense to actually get the stencil again and do it. So I'll finish the backs of these chairs. And freehand lines of our grass. When we have this many lines going, once you've finished your sign pen, it probably makes sense to use your eraser to get rid of all these pencil lines because it gets a little crowded with lines if you don't do so. Okay. Now I'm going to grab my stencil again and redo these circles. Inner one. That's our border. And grab this small guy for our fire pit. Okay, palm trees, little circles. And the little spider legs are going in the dark pen, but the fronds that we'll actually make are going to be in our smallest weight. And we'll do here in a second. Okay, so everything is done except for pop-up, our downspout tie-in, and our borders are done with our thin pen, but our walls, I use the thick pen to cross and show the wall caps. The thicker the lines, generally the higher the elevation, or the thicker the material. So it just looks a little bit cleaner if we use our thick pen to do all our walls. And we've got everything penned in at this point. Since we've got the pen in our hand, we can stipple our turf areas. Remember, stippling is just holding the pen vertical up and down and just making dots, give it a little bit of texture to the grass. And then we've created 3 different turf areas. That's one up here. When we add some color, this is really going to come together. That's that there. And we are, for the moment, done with our sign pen. Grab our Precise V5 RT thin, or whatever markers you might have, or pens you have in your branch. And we're going to create a 1 box on the inside, borderline, and all our hardscape areas. Also, our turf areas, because on the outside, we decided in this design to use a Mow strip on our turf to kind of make everything cohesive. So I'm going 1 block the outside of the thick lines here. Do the simpler ones first, which are just the rectangles. And make note that I'm turning my page, not my ruler. And then we're going to have to freehand as close as you can get it, about 1 block on the inside of our curved walkways. That gets a little bit tougher. A little bit of practice, though, you'll get it. You can technically use your ruler to space out, but that gets a little cumbersome and time consuming. Notice I keep close detail that I'm not doubling up borders here. So this one right here doesn't need that side border or that side border because it's already implied by this patio and this walkway. Just like this walkway won't have a border in the inside here because there's already one on the patio there. Same here and here. Double borders don't really make all that much sense, especially when it comes to the design page, unless they want that, and you can certainly draw that in. For this one here, we did the double dark line. Let's do our turf. So in this turf example, we don't need to draw in a turf Mow strip here because the border is already existing on the walkways. So here, the turf, you don't need to draw a Mow strip. I'm going to draw a Mow strip in the bottom line here. For those of you that don't know, a Mow strip is just a layer of pavers on the edge of the turf itself that exists as kind of an edge restraint to have a finished look for the turf itself. That's the border there. That's the border there. And if I look again, I think I have borders everywhere. Yep. Then what we do is just use our same pen and hash in our border lines real quickly. Again, these don't have to be perfect. They just have to give the impression that there is some different direction of the paper itself. And follow along the curved lines, same process, same theory. And pretty soon we're going to have a really cohesive diagram. Around the outside of the circle. In the Mow strip. Topmost strip. I didn't put a border where this wall meets the turf. I've seen that done before. It can look good. Where there's a mow strip, there's the wall, then the mow strip on the ground. But more often than not, the wall is a good edge restraint for the turf itself. You don't need a mow strip there.
He's recording it, so.
You'll have access to it.
Yeah, I'm recording it. I don't expect anybody to keep pace here. I'm moving pretty quickly.
Excuse me.
Borders almost done. And I'm noticing a bunch of kind of straight lines. I'm going to use my eraser to get the lines gone, especially on these curved paths that I kind of stopped and started. And it won't take up any of the pen when you do this. It'll just take.
He figured it
Pencil.
out. And he's done.
Okay.
He just
So now I'm going to draw in my paver texture, which is just a 45-degree lines, and I keep them consistent going all the way down all my pathways, unless they want like a specific direction on their pathway. Turn my page and do it cross hatch. These are just real quick lines, nothing too intentional other than the direction. You get a really nice texture. Don't have to be X's. No, they just end up looking like that. So now that is a really strong, almost finished product. The next part is the palm trees. These look really cool when you do it this way. So you're going to start on the line and then draw eyelashes from the line out for each one. You're going to make kind of like hairy caterpillars that look like this. You can see this one here. I start in the line and then draw out is the easiest way to do it. And you're going to do it for all the trees, and we're making our palm fronds. Again, these little details go a long way. Okay, we got about 10 minutes to finish our color. So when would you do a drawing like this? You would do a drawing like this, as I mentioned earlier, when you got a big project, you really need to impress a client. If you've got a project for $200,000, what are you showing them to get that $20,000 deposit check? What are you showing them visually? What kind of expertise are you showing? What kind of knowledge of what we do in design and vision can you show them? For a project that big, you might do 3D visuals too, but this is a really good place to start, be able to show them. So if we look at a finished tree, look at all these little eyelashes coming off the tree here, all the way, all four. And I believe we are done with that. Switch over to our pens. Sand is going to be all our borders. So I'm going to do all my borders in the same direction before I flip the page over. And again, these don't have to be perfectly in the lines. We're just going to make it look pretty close. Flip my page. And try to do it in one stroke. We're controlling the tip of the marker itself so that we only have to go one direction one time, and the right amount of the marker tip is hitting the page. Saves a lot of time. And once the border's done, we've got an outline of all our hardscape and turf areas. I'm going to take my paper fields color, beige, and go in one direction. Remember, that's really important for the overall flow and for how the markers dry. Go in one direction, so it looks almost like a solid fill rather than a scratched surface. Even on my walkway, keep them going in the same direction as much as you can. And work around the barbecue here. And cut our walkway. So now all our hardscape is done. Let's make our grass green or your grass equivalent in your market. Again, fill in our grass colors, try to keep in the same direction the best you can. Curved shapes are harder to do so. I think the more important thing is just to not scratch color something. Intentional straight strokes. We're really shaping up here. Okay, so grass is done. I use an orange color or pale cherry, as some of you might have, for my walls. So I'll go all over, do all my walls. And the sidewall. Curbing, I use purple. Sidewalls, I do orange, and brick red I use for my steps. For barbecues, I usually just stick with the gray color. Gray color. And the chairs too. We can write a note at the end too, chairs not included, just so it's clear what we are and we aren't doing. For the highlights there, maybe take a darker gray and do in the grill. So it shows different. Fire pit also we can do in gray. Maybe take your brick red. Throw a little fire in the middle. And a little line with our fine tip. Okay, now we're gonna do the fronds for our palm tree. We're gonna start with our Nile green, which is your darkest green, and then just kind of roughly do the same caterpillar eyelash thing that we did with the small pen. And you've got some really nice looking trees as a result. And again, you can go over the hardscape and it'll all blend in. And your palm tree looks like that at the end. Do it for all your trees. I'm just using the tip really kind of roughly. I'm not really following any specific eyelash that's already there. Just giving it the texture. One more to go. So the last steps after this would be labeling. Label your house, label your drains, label your planter walls, your fire pit. Mark out what's not included, namely the chairs for the barbecue. The planting is not included. I use my brown color or warm gray in this case and do all my planters. You can put some little plants inside, diagramming inside the planter box if you want. I won't sit here and do all of this brown now, but you get the idea. Everything else would be filled in brown. At the end, you've got a really sharp finished product. I didn't put a pathway to the side here, but for the most part, there would be a walkway that comes up the side. If you want, and you know there's going to be a drain, you can take your sign pen, kind of right in the middle here, and you can mark out that that's a drain. Take your blue for water. Give that little blue color. You've got your drain marked out there. I've got my downspout marked in there. My pop-up down the bottom there. It's my pop-up. that's my drain, that's my downspout. And that's our diagram. So that's a complex version of a bigger diagram that we're doing. We incorporated some seating walls, a planter wall, curved walkways, fire pit, circle patio area, mow strips on the turf, another mow strip on the turf up here. We have a barbecue with the theory of everybody's looking out towards the lawn and some curved walkways here. We've got our drains in here. We found out that we can use our ruler to actually put on the diagram. And I know that this drain empties to this pop-up down here. And it's 47 linear feet. That pop-up, I might be able to just connect on this line here. So I would add that linear feet to that line, 20. So I've got 67 linear feet of drain line here. We'd finish off the drawing by, labeling your turf areas, some marker, that kind of thing. Adding labels here, adding Smith Residence to the top. And we are finished.